Hello and welcome back to When the Night Comes. I'm Agent of Mischief. Let's get back on into it, shall we? I closed the door behind me, leaving August and Harry with their discussion. I feel a bit overwhelmed, but ready. Ready to finally start my investigation and to hopefully end all of this chaos. I take a deep breath and straighten my clothes, feeling ruffled from both that initial heated encounter and the brief but semi-informative conversation with Lieutenant General. As I turn to leave, I spot Piper leaning against the wall. She looks stoic, her gaze fixed on the floor, but she perks up when she spots me approaching. Oi, Raven, I can call you that, can't I? She makes a quiet, frustrated noise and closes her eyes. She shakes her head, exhaling sharply before she meets my gaze. Listen, I'm sorry you had to witness that exchange. I couldn't bring myself to leave without apologizing for my behavior both today and in the tavern the other day.
It's been a rough few weeks, and I often let my passion overrule any rational thoughts that I promise I am capable of having. It's unbecoming of me.
I'm taken aback by the vulnerability of her words. This isn't the Piper I thought I'd have to become accustomed to. Piper, She raises her hand to halt my words, calloused fingers curling into a fist.
Please, just let me apologize, all right? Then we can pretend I never acted like a complete asshole, and you can go and do your job.
So... She sticks out her hand, her daggers clanging noisily where they rest in the holster at her back.
The name's Piper Merriman.
She rolls her eyes, taking a deep breath before her next sentence.
Major Piper Merriman.
She throws me a wicked grin, and I can't help but laugh. I eagerly take her hand in my own and shake it firmly, my touch lingering a little longer than necessary as I cling to her warmth. It's a pleasure, Hunter Merriman. I gather I'll be seeing you around, or I hope I will. A smirk hooks the corner of her mouth, our fingers brushing as they slowly part, and there's something curious shining in her striking gaze.
Well, the town is terribly small. It would be quite hard to avoid me.
I shrug, nonchalant. I can think of far worse things than bumping into you. She narrows her eyes, shoving me playfully. The most subtle flash of color creeps across her freckled cheeks.
Oh, I don't know. I can be pretty scary if you ask nicely.
Nicely, you say? She purses her lips, her sapphire gaze sweeping over me like a caress.
Well, I think we're going to get along swimmingly.
She's quite an enigma, and I can feel my skin prickling under her heavy gaze. Certainly not an unwelcome feeling. She snorts a laugh, the sound wholly inelegant, but charming nonetheless. What's so funny? She narrows her gaze, shifting from one foot to the other as if she has excess energy to dispel. Oh, nothing much. Just didn't expect you to be quite so... interesting, I suppose. I feign offense, and her answering laugh is magical. I'll just have to prove myself then, won't I? That you will. Piper glances at the clock before turning back to me with a roll of her eyes.
Ugh, I better get going. I have an inevitably worthless mission to get on with. People in this town are adept at mistaking common house cats for ghastly creatures. Must be something in the water.
I should go too. Yes, of course. Now off you go. Save Lunaris and all that. I'll see you around, Raven. She turns on her heel and heads for the exit, pulling her chestnut hair up into a messy bun as she goes. I gather my wits, checking my supplies and weapons, adjusting my armor. It's time to begin. It's a strangely beautiful day in Lunaris, regardless of the biting cold. The sky is clear, and the cobbled streets are abuzz with the smiling faces of townsfolk strolling to the local market with empty baskets and full pockets. There's certainly a different vibe to the last time I walked the street. No panic, no haste. As I draw nearer to the center of town, I see that imposing white building. Scarlet flags sway in the winds on the roof, but as I look closer, I can see that they're tattered and dirtied. The twins may very well be human, but the way my stomach drops and twists as I approach the weathered wooden door tells me I might be shocked by what I'll find inside. I push open the heavy doors, and the sight that I'm met with snatches the breath from my lungs. This place is huge. Its domed ceilings were seemingly once decorated with an intricate painting, but the layers have cracked and peeled over time, and nothing more than the remnants of what looked like a starry night sky cling to it. The furniture is caked with a thick layer of dust, and the pews are in disarray and covered with the strange etchings that look like they've been carved into the cheap wood with a blunt nail. There's a lot to take in, but I'm not here to scour this ruin for evidence. I'm here to talk to its inhabitants. The dread that's now firmly seated in the pit of my stomach turns violently, but it's something old, something that lingers. I anticipate that I might find a lot more than I'm bargaining for if I truly desire, but I need to focus. I need to find the Woodridge twins. As if by magic, two pairs of startlingly bright blue eyes emerge from the shadows near the destroyed pulpit.
Hello, Hunter. We were expecting you.
To say that they're unusual would be an understatement, and they're not at all what I expected. I offer her a small friendly smile, however forced it may be. Word travels fast in Lunaris. I'm Hunter Adventurus. She narrows her eyes at me, suspicious for the briefest of moments before she's smiling unnervingly again. Despite her best effort at apparently trying to be cute, it's still terrifying.
I'm Aurora, and this is my dear brother Armaros. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance, Hunter Adventurus.
I nod politely, not quite sure which of them I should be focusing my attention on. Armaros doesn't appear to enjoy talking, or maybe he's simply not permitted to. His overbearing sister is clearly the leader of the two. I bet it'd piss her off if I addressed him. Armaros seems uneasy and far less abrasive than his sister, and as I turn my attention to him, his eyes widen almost comically. He resembles a startled forest animal. Armaros, can you tell me a little bit about the church and what you do here? His mouth twists into a dissatisfied snarl, but as he begins to speak, Aurora swiftly interrupts him.
Armaros, we haven't even offered our visitor a drink. Such a terrible first impression we must have given you, Hunter Adventurus.
Armaros sighs loudly, giving up without a fight. I'm fine, thank you. I'd really just like to ask you a few things so I can be on my way. I'm sure you're very aware of the recent murders in the area. Can you tell me anything that may be of use to my investigation? Aurora steals her gaze, unblinking, her fingers clasped closely and tight. Her fingers clasped, why did I say closely, tightly in front of her.
We saw nothing, and we have an alibi.
I look at Armor, startled that he actually spoke. His voice is strangely soft and comforting. Regardless, his words sound practiced and rehearsed. He looks nervous, like he'd rather be anywhere else but here, and his eyes keep darting to the door behind me. Nothing at all. You're stationed right beside the graveyard where the last hunter's body was discovered. You're telling me you didn't hear a thing? He was brutally murdered, set alight, and burned to ash, and yet he didn't scream or call for help? Aurora's lip curls at the corner, her eyes turning dark.
My brother speaks the truth, Hunter Adventurus. Question us all you like, but we've been through this with your insufferable predecessor.
Just like Harry said, they apparently have an ironclad alibi, but my suspicion does not waver. I nod once, noticing Armaros' gaze burning into me, and though I cannot gauge how he's feeling, my gut tells me he has something to say. Something he wouldn't dare to do with his sister by his side. Like he's scared. I clear my throat, trying not to be distracted by their unnatural stillness. Can you explain to me what you do and why? They share a look, and Armaros nods once under his sister's ice-cold gaze.
Our purpose is simple. We spread the word of the night, of those that are oppressed and murdered in cold blood.
And who exactly are the oppressed? She giggles, the sound musical but edging on maniacal.
The creatures, of course.
I look at Armaros, and he drops his gaze, color sweeping across his pale cheeks.
Is my answer not satisfying, Hunter Adventurus? Surely you know that the institution that you serve brings harm to innocents. That the creatures that you kill are nothing more than confused and lost, merely looking for salvation?
I pause, carefully contemplating my response. My adult life has consisted of seeing bloodthirsty creatures trying to mindlessly murder innocent people, and in return trying to kill me as I protect them. I see no desire for salvation in that. I appreciate that there are creatures who don't intend to harm anyone, even some that are kinder than most humans. But... I smile again and take a deep breath. But I cannot bring myself to understand how you can so blindly support the slaughter of your own people. Armaros frowns deeply, and I swear I see him shaking his head at me, but it's just subtle enough for his sister not to notice.
Because humans are inferior and pathetic. We infest and corrupt the earth by dedicating our time and resources to ridding it of the only things that give our wretched species any hope.
She inhales sharply, calming herself and brushing her hands over the front of her skirt.
So, Hunter Adventurus, to answer your question, we are here to protect the creatures, just as you are here to destroy them.
I'm starting to feel like Harry sent me here just to unnerve me. Surely he knew this is what I would be faced with. I still have nothing to work with here, and as the twins continue to stare me down, I think about his parting words. Suspect everyone. Question everything. You truly have nothing else to say regarding the situation? Aurora stands firm, her lips curling into that wolfish grin once more.
Not a thing. It was ever so wonderful to make your acquaintance, though. Truly. Do stop by again. Our doors are open to everyone. We're more than happy to accommodate you, should your agency need to question us for a third time.
Armaros gives me a look again, and I wonder if it'd be possible to somehow get him alone. I have a feeling I get a lot more out of him than I have from her. Thank you, Aurora. Armaros. On my way out, I see a small, neatly wrapped package sitting on the doorstep. I bend down to check the label, and written on it in an elegant script are the words Zes Hewa, and Armaros is name paired with a small heart. I may not know what it means, but I know a demonic language when I see one. Just as I suspected, there may be a lot more to Armaros Woodridge than meets the eye. He's a transformer. That's why there's more than meets the eye. I walked through the center of town for a while, getting to know the buildings and watching the people that passed me by. Lunaris turns into a quiet and nervous town when the sun begins to set, and I wonder if it's only recently lost its warmth. I consider heading for the graveyard, something tugging at me and telling me that there's more there for me to find, but... Alcar appears from between the crooked houses, sitting two children that were playing in the street scattering.
What the hell have you been doing in that damned church? Are you feeding into their bullshit already?
He pauses, huffing a sharp breath through his nose.
Thought you'd be different. Just like everyone said you would be. How stupid of me to want to believe them.
This certainly isn't the first time I've been caught off guard by an angry lycan, but it's safe to say that I don't have to fear for my life here. Maybe. He does look pretty pissed. It's not what you think, Alcar. I was just questioning them. He scoffs, rolling his eyes. His hands are shaking, but he balls them into fists when he catches me looking. Is that so? And why should I believe you? I don't even know you. Sorry for my bad Brooklyn accent. I feel like it works better than the talking like this that I did for him last time. That might be what I switch Harry's voice to, actually. No, you don't, which is why you should consider giving me the benefit of the doubt. I'm just trying to do my job. Do you suggest I just ignore the very very obvious cult in the middle of town? His wolf ears flicker back and forth and he unclenches his fists. You were just questioning them? I nod. Yes, I was hardly agreeing with them in their hatred for, well, me. He rolls his eyes at me, standing his ground. Something has me curious, and I can't resist asking. They want to protect you from the likes of me, so why do you despise them so much?
Because they couldn't care less about those of us that don't enjoy killing humans mindlessly. Because we're not real creatures if we stay out of trouble and befriend humans or each other.
So if you dare to act even remotely human, you're the enemy too? He smirks, brows raised.
Now you're getting it.
Alcar is apparently defensive to a fault, but I sense that under the surface he's probably just scared, maybe even a little lonely. It must be hard to be feared like that when you've done nothing wrong. At least, I don't think he has. He is kind of a bastard. Are you close with anyone in town? He bristles, his tail swaying behind him. That's an odd question, and close is reaching. Do you at least know anyone in town? You and Piper seem aware of each other. He scoffs, his lips curling in disgust.
Merriman and I are not close. Unless you consider her kicking my ass her way of showing affection.
I tilt my head, contemplating that she actually might. Depending on what you're into, I suppose. Trust me when I say Merriman and I are not friends. Then you truly have no one? He softens slightly, his gaze dropping to the ground. I have friends, I suppose. Finn, Ezra, maybe even the demon.
It's easier for me to keep my distance. Anyone who gets close to me always gets hurt.
Is that so? I think about the way he acts, his cockiness and his smirking and flashing fangs. Is all of that just a show to keep others away, to keep them wary? I suppose it works, as much as it also earns him their bad opinion. Why do you ask, anyway? You seem lonely, that's all. He straightens up, wolf ears pressed flat against his skull.
Well, maybe I like being lonely. Have you considered that? I am a wolf, after all. Aren't we supposed to be solitary creatures?
Well, it depends. Surely you have a pack? He stiffens at that, and his next words are firm and final. No, and don't ask me again. Sadness swiftly replaces any trace of anger that I feel from him. I'm sorry, I won't mention it again. Thank you, Hunter. A moment passes, and Alcar restlessly shifts from one foot to the other. He doesn't seem incredibly satisfied with my answer about questioning the twins, but I can't really do much more to convince him, nor do I care to right now. So where are you heading to now? Do you live nearby? He narrows his eyes at me, clearly contemplating if he wants to divulge such information. Why? I'm just asking in an attempt at being friendly. You don't have to tell me.
That simple, huh? I live around, in places.
I scoff a laugh, earning a raised brow and a flick of his ears. Very specific.
I'm a specific guy.
He glances up at the sky, muttering something under his breath before he sets his gaze upon me once again.
It's getting dark, and there's a cold drink with my name on it at the Wolf. As much as I'd love to stay standing in the middle of the street talking to Lunaris' new favorite person, I'd better dash.
He turns as if he's about to leave, but he pauses, pointing at the Ibex. The building looms over the town, and it appears even more unsettling now I know who resides there.
Stay away from them. You might think you're safe because they're human, but words can do just as much harm as knives or claws in this town.
I get the horrible feeling that he's right, that maybe I should have pushed harder with them. I should be asking him about the murders, too, but Harry told me to trust my instincts, and right now, something is pulling me towards that graveyard. Not towards this scrappy, sarcastic wolf. I'll be careful. See to it that you are, Hunter. The town might fucking implode if it has to deal with much more. He makes a dismissive noise, scowling at me, but he's unable to mask his obvious worry for my well-being. Not that I care. Anyway, I'll see you around. He offers me a half-arsed wave paired with a decidedly mischievous grin, and then Alcar slinks back into the alley from whence he came. The graveyard looks so different at night, beautiful even. Fog twists and curls around my ankles as I walk, glimmering specks of vivid blue light sparkling in its haze. Thankfully, the darkness is a little more forgiving this evening, and something seems to be guiding me along and leading me right to the place where the murder happened. I'm hoping that I might be able to get a clearer idea of what transpired here that night, now that I know who he was, or what he was. I follow the path and see a second figure crouching before a neat line of gravestones. There's no danger here, not that I can feel, but I approach with caution anyway. As I draw nearer, I recognize him. It's Finn. I'm no fool, and I know he senses me here, but he doesn't flinch, keeping his gaze fixed on the dark forest that surrounds us. I stand in silence and observe him, noticing the defeated set of his broad shoulders. He already seems different here to the man I encountered the other night in Ezra's shop. More stoic. He takes a deep breath, one I know he doesn't need, and he turns slowly.
Hunter, what brings you here on this fine evening?
He's so cute. Hanging out in graveyards is just part of the job. He rolls his eyes playfully.
I relate to the people here a lot more than I do anyone else.
I laugh and he joins me, his expression softening a little. For someone who requires no sleep, he looks tired. Do you really spend your free time hanging around graveyards like the vampires in all the storybooks? He gestures to the tombstone, shrugging.
Yes, of course. How else would I chat with my friends?
He stares at me quite intently, his smirk fading. The dull golden glow of his eyes is strangely comforting in the darkness, and they glisten as he cocks his head. I gather he's trying to suss me out.
You know, I actually find it quite soothing out here. It's so peaceful. And humans can be so very loud. It's nice.
Graveyard is kick-ass. I love hanging out in there. I've hung out in them since I was a small child, to the surprise of no one. He pauses, looking up at the stars, and he smiles again. I look around us. The trees are swaying softly in the breeze, crickets chirping in the tall grass, not another living soul apart from myself and... Well, he may not be living, but he's here. You're right, there is something peaceful about it. Curiosity shines in his gaze, and he's apparently impressed by my answer. How are you coping with all of this? It must be overwhelming, starting fresh in a strange place. He pauses, his nose crinkling, pointed ears twitching. Especially one as strange as this. I grin, agreeing with him wholeheartedly. I'm slowly getting the hang of it, I think. You're doing just fine, Raven. So tell me, why are you really here at this hour? I really need to have a look around. I sensed something near where the body was found the night after I arrived. He pauses, looking as though he's trying to decide if he should say what he's thinking.
There's definitely a strange energy here. Stranger than usual, anyway. But I can help you, if you wish. I mean, if you wanted an immortal opinion.
How exactly can you help me? He huffs a quiet laugh and folds his arms across his chest.
With an excellent sense of smell, and the ability to see things your human eyes cannot, be of use.
I feign disinterest, a playful roll of my eyes as she waits for my response. I suppose I shouldn't dismiss any help, but how do I know that you're not the thing committing these horrible crimes? I've been told to trust no one more times than I can count, so tell me, Fen, why should I trust you? He offers me a wry smile, but sadness lingers in his gaze.
Freedom.
Freedom? He nods again, taking another deep, unnecessary breath.
I've been trying to become a better man since the day I died. My sire was a cruel man, a tyrant. Being around that for centuries does something to you.
Where's your sire now? He swallows thickly, rubbing the back of his neck. It's almost a nervous gesture, and the first time I've seen him do anything that looked remotely human or graceless. Dead. Killed by your lieutenant general. I owe Harry my life. He freed me from Levi's shackles. He pauses, head tilted toward the night sky, and he closes his eyes. A smile crosses his lips, something wicked.
I've done terrible things in my time, and I intend to pay penance for those for the rest of my days. Which, if you hadn't heard, is forever.
There are so many things I long to ask him. He's seen so much, done so much, and I assume lost so much.
So, to answer your question, I value doing the right thing above all else. Even if sometimes I tend to stumble a little. Metaphorically, of course.
I offer him a wry smile, watching him watch me. I think I need all the help I can get, so thank you, Fen. I take a deep breath, exhaling sharply. So where the hell did we begin? He quirks a dark brow at me, fangs shining when he speaks. You're the expert, shouldn't you be telling me? I burst past him, returning his smile as I head for the site of the murder. Don't push your luck, vampire. Came out meaner than I meant. He laughs a quiet chuckle and he dutifully follows me. We stop at the charred patch of grass and Fen bends to pick up one of the bloodied shards of the shattered gravestone. He brings it to his nose, glancing at me before he gives it a tentative sniff. He crinkles his nose, apparently repulsed by whatever scent he's picked up. He hands me the stone, wiping his hands off on his
I
trousers.
suggest you keep that. That's not something I've experienced before, and I've smelled a lot of different things in my time. It seems off. If it's from a creature, it's certainly not one I've come across in my 600 years.
I throw him an accusatory glance before turning my attention back to what he's handed me. I put it in my pocket for safekeeping, confused about why such a thing was left uncollected. You can't pick up anything familiar at all, which must mean it isn't the victim's blood. He shakes his head. Definitely not his. Well, here goes nothing. I do exactly as I did last time and close my eyes, concentrating and pouring all my energy into seeking out that lingering memory. It's just as I remember. Painful, loud, and I almost can't bear it, as a deep, scared voice echoes in my mind. Leave while you still can. I feel force pushing at me, but it's weak and nothing I can't handle, so I fight it and hold my ground. It's not hostile, but panicked. It's trying to tell me to go, to get out, to run. That just makes me want to stay all the more. I hear Fen saying my name, but it's quiet, almost as if I'm underwater. I want to help. Tell me how. Who did this to you? No help, just death. You can't stop them. I tried. I failed. The voice quickly disappears, and all I'm left with are more questions. I open my eyes to find Finn crouched before me, his eyes wide and concern etched on his face. Raven, what the fuck was that? You didn't hear that? Hear what? I wasn't trying to listen. I didn't want to risk my abilities interfering with yours. I exhale sharply, shaking my head. It was the hunter. That's never happened before. What do you mean? I mean, I feel things. I hear things sometimes too, but I've never directly spoken to a spirit like that before. At least that's what I think it was. I should go. We both move to stand, and my legs feel a little shaky beneath me. Hey, take it easy. I nod, regretting it immediately as a wave of dizziness overtakes me. Whoa there, are you sure you're good to go alone? Yes, I'll be fine, I just
You
need...
need to go and seek out Ezra. He can help you. Trust me. He's good with weird shit like this.
I contemplate heading back to see August, but I suspect they wouldn't appreciate me disturbing them at this hour with little more than a ghost story. You're right, I'll head for his shop immediately. Finn nods, still watching me carefully. Be careful. Head straight there, okay? I will. Thank you, Fen. See you around, Raven. He turns and heads for the forest, a final glance at me over his shoulder before he disappears. Now I need to find Ezra, and fast. I hurry to the shop, still unsteady on my feet, and my mind is reeling. What the hell is going on in this town? I round the corner and see that the lantern outside the shop is dark. I didn't realize how late it had gotten, and I can only hope that he's home. I knock on the door and hear a loud crash, followed by quick footsteps. The door creaks open slowly, and a face that definitely isn't Ezra appears. Taken aback by the sight of Omen, his eyes wide as he stares at me. Are you supposed to be in there, Omen? He blinks, and a moment later he smiles, full of sheepish remorse. That answers my question, though it's difficult to even work up any annoyance if he's actually trespassing. Is he influencing me with his powers, or is his human face just that cute? Yes, I'm maybe kind of living here right now. Oh, really? He smiles shyly, his ears twitching, and he looks away for a moment. Is Ezra here? He shakes his head, opening the door a little more.
No, he went out. He said he wouldn't be long, but I don't know when he'll be back.
His eyes widen a little more, as if he's remembering something. Sorry, would you like to come in? I contemplate rushing off to continue my search for Ezra, but I would be stupid to miss a chance to find out a little more about this curious demon. I'd love to, but just for a moment. There's a neat little pile of cushions arranged on the rug in the middle of the shop, and a handful of empty wrappers that I can only assume were once filled with treats. Stop hogging all of Ezra's treats! Owen rushes to pick them up and scrunches them into a ball as if he's trying to get rid of the evidence. His tail sways mindlessly as he sticks them in a small bin hidden behind the counter. He seems oddly at home here, so I assume he's telling the truth about staying here often. You look exhausted. Have you been busy today? I laugh quietly, rubbing my temple, my head continuing to thrum. Very busy, yes. He nods, picking up a lightly glowing blue crystal that sits on one of the displays. He fiddles with it nervously. Can I ask you a few questions? I suppose, yes. I might not be able to answer much, though. Why? He grimaces.
I try to stay out of things around here. The humans don't like me very much.
Because you're a demon? His mouth twists into something that looks like it's trying, very much failing to be a smile. Something like that. I suppose that's fair. It's not every day you see a demon like him walking down the street, even these days. He's well glamoured, but he's still quite obviously inhuman. In a town like this, especially one so small, I imagine he's quite an unnerving presence. And that isn't even taking into consideration what the murders and unanswered mysteries might have done to the townsfolk's nerves. Do you know much about the recent murders? Omen passively looks out of the window, a sad look crossing his face.
I know that the humans are upset, and that the ones who were killed were hunters. Ezra is tired all the time, and Finn visits him less. Alcar is distant.
He sighs, a knot forming between his brows.
Everything is so different lately. I don't like it.
His eyes light up as he turns to look at me.
But now you're here. A solution. A fresh start.
Eventually, Omen shrugs. The wind changes, perhaps toward shore this time? And he smiles at me, full of optimism and faith. His trust is almost sweet, but I can't in good conscience lie to him. I hope so, Omen, but it might take me a little while. Right, yes, I understand that. I don't know much about you. Where are you from, and how long have you been here in Lunaris? His eyes widen, his pupils dilating, and I see the slightest hint of crimson flickering in his chestnut brown.
I've been here about 2 years. Time passes differently here for me, so it's hard to know for sure. You'd have to ask Ezra. He'd know.
I don't miss the way he so tactfully ignores my question about his origins, but I decide not to press him if he's giving me something. Yet. How did you meet Ezra? He lights up at that question.
I met him the day I arrived in Lunaris. He was the first person I saw, and he took me in without question when I was in need of shelter.
Samesies. Ezra is very kind, isn't he? He nods enthusiastically. He is quite wonderful. Everyone thinks so. Well. He fidgets, dropping his gaze to his hands, fingers toying with the blue crystal again. The General, August. They don't like him very much, and that makes Ezra sad. Rude to Ezra. Ezra's a sweetheart. Do you know why? He shakes his head, biting his lip. No, I didn't want to ask, but Finn says they've known each other a very long time.
Ezra has been very, very kind to me. I don't want to pry. Not about things that might hurt to say. Or to hear.
I nod slowly. It's hard to argue with that, I suppose. He fidgets where he stands, his eyes flickering the curtain that hides Ezra's living area. Can I show you something? Of course you can. One moment. He dashes through the curtain that separates the front of the shop with the back, reappearing within seconds clutching a weathered notebook. Here, I keep notes on things I find interesting, mostly humans, but also Finn, Alcar, Ezra. He trails off looking wistful.
I thought maybe this could help you. If you need to know stuff about certain people, I might have something here.
Can I borrow it? Omen opens the front cover, running a finger over the words. The pages are full to the brim with barely legible notes, all seemingly written quite hastily. Most of it isn't even in a language I understand. Would I be able to borrow it? He tenses, his cheeks turning beet red as he closes it and holds it close to his chest.
I'd like to keep it if that's okay. Though I'm happy to show you if you'd like.
My fingers twitch at the thought of what observations he might have made, but I daren't startle him by insisting. He seems skittish still, just like the first time we met. Maybe another time? Of course! I feel a sudden twang of pain in my temple again. The sensation is unpleasant, and it burns. Raven, are you okay? Owen rushes to my side, the notebook forgotten upon the counter. He reaches for me, but he's hesitant. I feel an impossible warmth radiating off his palm, but he withdraws his hand before he touches me. I'm fine, I really need to find Ezra. Do you have any idea where he could be?
I don't know for sure, but he usually goes to the market or the tavern. Maybe even the catacombs.
The catacombs? He nods, leaning closer.
Yes, that's where the vampires are.
He presses his finger to his lips, a human gesture that looks out of place, like he's been practicing it.
I would try the tavern first, though. He did mention he needed a drink. He likes to drink a lot of wine after a busy day.
Ezra, you lush you. You've been holding out on me. Thank you so much, Omen. I'd better hurry. I bid him a quick farewell and head out back into the darkness. The darkness, Jackie. I push my way into the tavern, scanning every table for that shock of white hair, and much to my relief, I see the friendly face I'm looking for. He's noticed me already. His hand raised as he beckons me over to where he sits alone in a cozy spot in the corner. His smile is as bright and wide as I remember, and I take a seat opposite him.
It's good to see you. I hope the town hasn't scared you off yet.
I've raised an accusatory eyebrow at him, earning a laugh. Well, even if I was scared off, I can't really go anywhere, can I? Ezra smiles softly, but he seems restless. I suppose not, no.
What's that like? Being bound to do whatever you're told. By your duty.
I contemplate his question for a moment, wondering exactly how honest I should be. Well, it is quite lonely, especially when you're torn from your previous post and dropped into a weird town full of strangers. And murders, don't forget those. He winks, a sparkle in his eyes. And murders, yes.
I'm sorry you have to endure that. Loneliness is a terrible thing, but you shall be lonely no more. We've got you now. We're here for you.
He sits a little straighter, determined. We? He rolls his eyes playfully with a hand placed over his heart.
You wound me. Yes, we. Myself and Finn and Piper and, well, maybe even August, if you're lucky.
I laugh as Ezra grimaces at that thought.
There's people here. Some might be undead or just plain stubborn, but you have us.
Thank you, Ezra. That means a lot. He shrugs it off, running his fingers around the rim of his wine glass.
We've all been lonely at some point. Some of us will always be lonely, even surrounded by people. But if there's the smallest chance that you can quell that with some good company, then you should take it.
He looks up at me, and I wonder how much a human exists. How such a human exists. He's kind, and possibly so, and I find it very hard to believe it could ever be an act. So you have friends here, Raven? The barmaid comes over and rolls her eyes, hand on her hip as she addresses me rather curtly. Drink? I gestured at Ezra's half-empty wine glass, the dark liquid looking more than appealing. I'll have the same, please. She turns and wanders off with yet another roll of her eyes, and Ezra poorly stifles a laugh. Don't take it personally. That's Edna. She's notoriously, short. I grimace as she returns with my glass of wine. And as she returns with my glass of wine, I nod politely. Thank you, Edna. Edna grunts, turning on her heel and throwing me a dismissive wave over her shoulder. Case in point. The wine tastes rich, and I eagerly savor the first sip. Are you okay? You seem tense. I was actually looking for you. I need to tell you something, but I need you to promise me you won't think I'm crazy.
You're talking to someone who lives in Lunaris. Try me.
I take a deep breath and edge closer, checking no one else is listening. I visited the graveyard after I left your shop yesterday to see the crime scene. I tried to get a feel for what happened there that night. Ezra leans in, his eyes wide. And? I didn't really get much other than an overwhelming sense of loss, which is, well, quite normal considering the circumstances. People tend to feel such emotions when they're dying. But tonight I went back. Finn was there too, and I felt something different. Different how exactly? I have to laugh, knowing how ridiculous this sounds. I heard him, the hunter, the one who died. He spoke to me. Ezra's gaze darts around the tavern, and he sits back in his chair, running a hand through his hair. He wipes the look of shock off his face quickly, putting himself to rights. His voice is low when he speaks next, barely a whisper. You're sure? It was him? I nod. Positive. He told me to leave, and that there's no hope in helping. Ezra leans forward again, pushing his wine glass aside, placing his hand upon the table. His fingers are visibly twitching. I mirror his moment and place my hand upon the table beside his, shamelessly needing comfort and contact. Ezra doesn't hesitate to take it in his own, his skin warm and soft as he squeezes it tightly. It's going to be okay. We'll figure this out together. I exhale sharply, feeling like I've been holding my breath ever since I left that graveyard. Thank you, Ezra. I don't know what I'd do without you, and I've only known you for a few days.
It's okay. I'm used to taking care of people. It's my thing, I suppose. Besides, you're delightful. It's not like it's a chore.
He softens his expression and starts drawing gentle, soothing circles in the back of my hand with his thumb. His cheeks darken slightly, and everything about him is impossibly enchanting. I'm glad you're okay, Raven. I'm here for you, always. I'm more grateful than you'll ever know for that. Another squeeze of my hand and we part reluctantly. He's also so very cute. So what now? He curls his fingers around the stem of his glass and sighs deeply.
I don't even know how to unpack this, but I do know that you need to rest. How's your head feeling?
I sigh, pushing my wine aside, still hurting. Ezra fishes around in the pouch that's attached to his belt, retrieving a small vial full of what looks like a strange herb or flower. Here, crush this in some boiling water, and it should help with the headache. It's just some feverfew and butterburr. Completely natural, I promise. I take the vial and tuck it safely in my pocket. Do you have a pharmacy in there? He laughs softly, shaking his head. Well, what kind of witch would I be if I didn't carry around a cure for a migraine? I should head back to the shop. I left Omen unattended with the kitchen cupboard unlocked. He'll eat me out of house and home. I did check there before I came here. He's gotten into the sweets. Shit. And that's definitely my cue to leave.
Whatever you experience today will still have happened tomorrow. I know what you hunters are like. No matter how scary August is, your report can wait until tomorrow.
I smile up at him as he stands to leave. I promise, I'm drained. I need my bed more than ever right now. Plus, I need to decide how to put all this into words. This has changed everything for me, hasn't it? Yes, I'm afraid it did, just... He sighs deeply, resting a hand upon my shoulder.
Be mindful of who you share this information with, okay? There are eyes and ears everywhere.
Good night, Raven. Good night, Ezra. I stare out the window and spot the first snowflakes falling from a stardusted sky. Winter has arrived in Lunaris. My headache is persistent as I lay in bed, but nothing can possibly stop me from falling asleep after the day I've had. I finish the tea that I made with the flowers Ezra gave me, hoping that it begins to take effect. I close my eyes, but just before I drift off, a distant whisper. My name was James. I open my eyes to the incessant sound of fists banging on my door. My head is still pounding, a fuzzy haze settling over me as I drag myself from the relative comfort of my bed and attempt to ignore the ache that has made itself at home behind my eyeballs. I blink once, twice, and... Shit! It's dark? Surely I slept for no more than a few hours.
I hope you're dead in a bloody ditch somewhere.
Fuck. Hunter and Venturis, if you don't open this door in the next 5 seconds, then you'll have to pay for a new one. I grimace, thinking that might actually be the preferred option right now. Did I really sleep for a whole day? Well, at least my death will be the hands of something other than the ghastly creature, I suppose. Small victories. I look out the window, and it's most definitely past sundown. Lunaris is covered in snow, a pristine blanket of perfect white glistening in the moonlight. There are more people in the street than I've seen the whole time I've been in Lunaris, and they're hanging brightly colored bunting from between the crooked little houses.
I have things to do. Important things. I can hear you in there, you know.
The thought of opening the door and seeing August ready to tear my head off is less than appealing, especially when I look like I've been dragged through a fey nest and left for dead. I gather my wits and shout as cheerily as I can muster, I'll be down in 5 minutes! I hear a series of incoherent mumbles from the other side of the door, followed by a clack of heels as they walk away without much of a fight. I get the feeling I'm in a lot of trouble. Wonderful. The wolf is full to the brim with red-faced patrons, all wearing far fancier outfits than the usual uninteresting garments they tend to sport. I also see August scowling in the corner, but I almost don't recognize them out of their uniform. They spot me, and I can almost feel my blood freezing as that ice-cold gaze fixes upon me.
We thought you were missing. I almost had a search party sent out for you.
I really am sorry, General. I overslept. I promise I won't make it a habit. I don't have time for excuses. You missed your chance to brief us when you didn't show for our meeting this morning. But nothing. I stand in silence, thinking it might not be a good idea to push them. If you had attended this morning's meeting, you would know that there's quite an important event happening this evening. We don't have much time thanks to your tardiness, so please bear with me while I explain.
We are in the middle of a crisis, yes, but the Lunar Festival is unavoidable. Harry thinks that if we postpone or cancel it, the town will erupt into chaos.
Chaos? They need stability more than ever right now, and the last thing we need is more panic. Lunar Festival? A festival. While there are horrible murders being committed. Trust me, I know. It's abhorrent, to be quite honest. It's a yearly tradition that's been around for centuries, one that Harry holds dear. He's been distant lately.
We need our leader back. And if this helps, then I'm willing to play along. And I expect you to do the same. No questions asked, understand?
I hardly agree, and I have more than enough on my mind that I need to figure out, but the look August is giving me tells me that I have little to no choice.
And between you and me, I personally think it's a complete and utter waste of time and resources. Especially in the middle of such a crisis.
They sigh heavily, shrugging as if they've already admitted defeat. Alas, it's important to Harry that we stick with said tradition and show the people of Lunaris that everything is exactly as it should be. So just forget about the horrible murders and my sworn duty to protect and serve the people for a night, then? Yes, you've got it. And I don't have a choice? Do you ever? Point taken. A rather loud cheer rings out from the doorway, and August grimaces, running a hand over their face.
The festival itself takes place in the market. Please represent us well, Hunter. All eyes will be on you. And this is the perfect opportunity for you to introduce yourself to the town.
Then they look me up and down, apparently unsatisfied with my presentation. You'll want to change into something a little more interesting, and I suggest you find someone to escort you. It would look a little odd having you wander around by yourself. I have to show solidarity. I won't take Ezra this time, I think. I have someone who can show me around. Very well. Just remember that all eyes are on you. And don't forget to change. I nod, smiling politely. Yes, General. Good evening, Hunter. They tug on an expensive-looking fur coat and head out into the chill. I look down at my outfit, sighing as I resign myself to the fact that I should probably change. I think of heading to Ezra's shop to find him, hoping he'll be happy to be my guide for the evening. The lantern outside isn't alight when I round the corner, but I decide to knock and double-check to see if he's home. As I raise my fist to the wood, a soft gust of wind startles me. I turn to find a familiar figure waiting for me on the street. He's on his way to the market already. Hello to you too, Fen. I still want that jacket. I fucking want that for myself. Such a good jacket. I love a good jacket. Hello to you too, Fen. I trust that you're feeling okay after what happened last night. I nod as I join him on the street. I'll be fine. I overslept and will likely suffer for it, but I'll live. You might catch Ezra if you hurry. I was heading to the festival myself, actually. You enjoy the festival?
I do. Especially when Alcar decides to attend. He tends to cause trouble, and I quite like his brand of trouble.
I laugh at his wicked grin, following as he turns to head toward the market. Come on, I'll walk you. Finn bids me farewell at the entrance, eagerly running off and disappearing into the dense crowd in his search for entertainment. He told me I'd likely find Ezra drowning himself in discounted goods, so I head towards the stalls that appear to be selling herbs, spices, and other ingredients that might be handy to a local witch. I spot a shock of white hair, and Ezra turns to face me when I call his name. Oh, Raven. I didn't expect to see you standing there. He tucks a neatly wrapped bundle of what looks like skeletal touch-me-nots into the pouch upon his belt. The petals are withered and form the shape of a sinister, smiling skull when they curl. Bitchin'. I raise an inquisitive brow at him. He rolls his eyes playfully and he tips his head for me to follow him as he heads to the next stall.
I don't buy these for the insidious reason you're thinking. They're for medicinal purposes, not hallucinogenic ones.
It could be for both. I don't judge. We wander from stall to stall, and Ezra is apparently quite happy for me to remain in his company. I enjoy watching while he takes full advantage of the unusual wares. He barters with a particularly stubborn herbalist over a price of her Angelica root, and eventually walks around with a scowl on his face, but his expression brightens when he sees me, and the wink he offers me tells me he got a good deal. They always fall for that one. You appear to be quite good at this. He shrugs, but he's clearly quite pleased with himself. Running a business by yourself is difficult. You have to be smart. That reminds me. I need to pick up a new spell book. I filled up the last one. Care to help me? There's a great craft stall that Finn showed me a while back. Of course. We find the stall and peruse the goods. His eyes light up when he spots a forest green, leather-bound book full to the brim with thick parchment, as if it was made just for him, and he eagerly passes over his coin to the vendor. I go through these quite quickly. I tend to be a bit of a scribbler. Do you use them purely for spells? He shakes his head.
As I specialize in healing, I like to get lost in a good medical journal every now and again. It might not be conventional to study such things, but I find it helps me really understand what kind of healing spells I need to develop.
What made you choose healing as your specialty? A sad look crosses his face.
My dad was killed when I was quite young. My magic had manifested, but I was completely helpless. From that day on, I promised myself that if anyone I loved was ever in danger, that I'd be able to help them. I haven't broken that promise just yet, and hopefully I never will.
Poor buddy. He takes a deep breath. I'm sorry you had to endure that. He smiles, and I'm impressed with how strong he is. Thank you.
I beat myself up over it for a long time, but I turned my pain into something that can help others. That's what my father would have wanted. I do it for him.
I tentatively reach out, placing my hand upon his arm. You're amazing, Ezra. I admire you.
That means a lot coming from someone like you. You're so brave to do what you do.
I smile, and he gratefully leans into my touch, reaching up to place his hand upon my own. He's warm, even in the freezing cold. We're both saving the world, then. Yes, we are. But really, thank you. I'm so lucky to be surrounded by such wonderful people. I reluctantly remove my hand, and Ezra drops his gaze, his lashes kissing the tops of his freckled cheeks. He shivers, rubbing his hands together. It's freezing. How about we go and get a nice hot drink, and you can tell me about that headache of yours? Sounds good. We order 2 steaming cups of hot chocolate, taking a seat on a pile of colorful, mismatched cushions that the vendor has kindly laid out. I'm not sure what that's supposed to be. The drinks are topped with a generous heap of whipped cream and marshmallows. We sit in comfortable silence for some time, watching people passing by and laughing at the sight of a fast-moving Alcar being chased by Piper. I dread to think what he's getting up to. Now tell me how you've been feeling since. You know. He looks at me expectantly, worry shining in his gaze. I'm okay, apart from the fact that I fell asleep all day and missed a meeting with Harry. I think August wants me dead. I'm sure they don't. You'd certainly know if they did. You'd certainly know about it if they did. Trust me. We both laugh, but I don't doubt that he's telling the truth. We finish our drinks, missing their warmth the second our cups are discarded. Ezra suggests finding something to do that might warm us up, so we head in the direction of the music we hear coming from the other side of the market. I spot an unmistakable figure as we draw nearer, and I see Ezra visibly deflate as August turns and spots us. Their eye roll isn't subtle. August clutches a glass of mulled wine like it's a lifeline, sighing as we come to a stop before them. I like their coat too, but I really, really want Finn's coat. I forgot about how much I coveted that fucking coat. Ezra, Raven, I trust that you're enjoying the festival. Ezra clears his throat, looking up at those ice blue eyes. Yes, we are. How about you? That wine looks delicious. They tilt their cups, studying the dark red liquid, a stick of cinnamon added for decoration.
Yes, well, wouldn't be the Lunar Festival without copious amounts of alcohol to pass the time, would it?
Ezra smiles politely, but I can tell he feels a little uncomfortable. It's been nice seeing you. We better get going. He looks at me, requesting backup. Yes, we're off. Somewhere. Well, enjoy that, whatever it may be. Farewell. We continue onward in silence, and Ezra seems a little deflated after our brief encounter with the Enforcer General. This new area of the market is much brighter, and there appears to be a lot more people gathered here than anywhere else. Ezra tips his head, gesturing for me to follow him to a calmer corner. Are you okay? Sorry, I'm fine. I find it hard seeing Gus. They make it hard. You know you can talk about it with me if something is troubling you, right? He sighs, fiddling with the hem of his coat and avoiding meeting my gaze.
I wouldn't know where to begin. I've known Gus since I was very young, and our friendship was never easy.
They seem complicated. Ezra nods once, worrying his bottom lip between his teeth.
They didn't have much of a support system when they were growing up, and I think they envied me. It sounds so silly saying it out loud.
Have you ever spoken to them about it? He shakes his head.
I'm sure they'll come to me when they're ready. Giving them space is important. That much I know.
If you ever need help or just a friendly ear, I'm here.
Appreciate it. But Gus is a good person, though. One of the best. Don't let our issues put you off them.
He clears his throat, bright eyes darting around the market. Anyway...
No, I heard a little rumor that there might be a band playing somewhere around here.
Oh, here, look! Mr. points behind me, and sure enough, we spot a band setting up near the trinket stance. They start playing, and a gaggle of people are eagerly crowding towards them to dance. Ezra steps close, offering his hand with a cheeky wink.
May I have this dance, fair hunter?
I will dance with you. I can't dance, but I will dance with you. I accept your offer. I'll let him lead. He probably knows what he's doing better than I do. Ezra takes my hand when I offer it, stepping close and placing his hand upon my waist. Are you ready? I squeeze his fingers where they intertwine with my own and place my other hand upon his shoulder. I'm ready. Keep up. We fit together perfectly, and the music is cheerful and fast. We spin and step in time with the beat, and Ezra's laughter is magical. I catch myself staring one too many times, transfixed by a pair of emerald eyes. Our bodies are pressed close, and I find myself forgetting where I am, maybe even forgetting my name. The song comes to an end, and a rather dramatic finish grants Ezra the opportunity to close off the dance with an impressive dip. He holds me a little tighter, laughing loudly as he flings me backward. He pulls me upright, and I quickly attempt to claw back my resolve as he releases me. I miss the contact immediately. That was amazing. The crowd claps, and I barely even noticed that most of them have stopped to watch us. I was too lost in Ezra to care.
You're quite the dancer. I'm impressed.
In the distance, we hear the loud boom of fireworks, and Ezra grabs my wrist. Quickly, we'll miss them. We make a break for it, dashing through the crowds until we reach the docks. We skid to a stop at the edge of the crowd, both of us breathless and laughing, our cheeks bright red. Ezra keeps his careful grip on my wrist, and I daren't to move away. We both look skyward, the colors creating stunning patterns as they burst against an endless backdrop of shimmering stars. I find myself wanting to take in another sight, though. Ezra. He looks so beautiful bathed in the shifting light, his smile wide and far brighter than any firework. Thank you for tonight, Ezra. He turns to face me, his eyes wide. I feel his hand shifting downward from my wrist to my palm, his fingertips feather light against my skin. I enjoyed myself tonight. With you. His voice is quiet, but I can hear him clearly as the fireworks end. As the crowd cheers, I feel myself leaning closer to him almost unconsciously. He smiles softly as I draw nearer. Then, a terrible and blood-curdling scream rings out somewhere in the distance. We're just chilling in our fancy fits, and then someone had to get murdered. Warning, any dialogue options labeled fight in this chapter will lead to scenes containing gore and violence. Player discretion is advised. I'm good. I just played Doki Doki Literature Club. I'm good. Though the warning is appreciated. Alright. Thank you all so much for checking out this video, for checking out the series, for checking out this game, what have you. I've been enjoying replaying this, and I hope you've been enjoying watching me replay this. If you'd like to see more content from me in the future, if you'd like to see more of this game, hit those like and subscribe buttons. Maybe leave a comment if you're feeling generous. And I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye.